Hi, I'm Lauren, a mom, former teacher turned children's book author, and your host who joins special guests each episode as we share our top kid-lit picks for sparking hard conversations the easy way. Yep, that means everything from tackling bullying and out of control anger to celebrating diversity, inclusion, and leading with kindness, plus so much more. My whole mission of my own children's book series, Blooming Rose, is to provide social and emotional support tools for in and out of the classroom, and this podcast is my way to expand that mission even further. So stay tuned as we dive into this week's topic on the Blooming Books podcast. Welcome back to another colorful episode of the Blooming Books podcast. As a former art teacher, of course, using art to connect with emotions has a special place in my heart and the heart of many. And our guest today is the amazing artist behind Dash Blossoms and a new author herself. And she's also here to share her therapeutic journey into healing nature of art. Welcome to the podcast, Cynthia Jackson.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so I love to kick things off with silly rapid fire questions to get to know you a little bit more about you. So, are you ready for that?
Yes.
Okay, number one. If you couldn't tell by the name Dash Blossoms, you specialize in line drawings of flowers. So, do you have a favorite bloom to draw?
Okay, this is like a really hard question, and I actually get asked this a lot. So I should have a better answer, but I really don't. I really enjoy all of them. If I am somewhere where there are flowers, then that is the flower that I want to draw. I like doing it when I have them right there to reference. But if I'm going just from memory, then the flowers I lean toward is going to be peonies and then lilies. For some reason, those ones from memory, just those are my favorites. Yeah.
And I imagine too, like you probably like the challenge of, seeing a new flower that you haven't drawn before and like looking at the
Yes.
lines differently and, how you go about that.
Yeah.
So,
And although I love drawing flowers, I honestly do not know much about. There's so many different kinds. People are like, "Oh, what kind of flower is that?" I'm like, "I don't know, but it's
I
really
don't know.
pretty."
I can tell you what it looks like and what color it is, but I really don't
Yes.
know. Okay, so are you an introvert, an extrovert, or somewhere in between?
Uh, Probably somewhere in between. I identify probably closer to an introvert, but I love people. So I love one-on-one, small groups. Of course, once you get me there, I love the big interactions and meeting
Mm-hmm.
people and things like that. Um, but I'm more of an introvert for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Okay, and number three, you are known around town for your amazing murals. So, do you have one project that was the biggest or the most challenging that you can think of?
Well, for sure, the side of a building, that was
Yeah.
the biggest and the most challenging, just because anytime you do something outdoors, there's so many factors. The weather, it was a time of year where it was starting to warm up, but then we had the random freezes, and so paint won't dry as well. And so it was just a lot of different elements that I had to kind of learn on the go. But yeah, that's in Rosenberg. Not far from downtown off Third Street. And yeah, that was definitely probably one of my biggest and learned a lot
Yeah.
on it.
I mean, even if it's like the wind blows the wrong way, you're like, oh no, like now I've got, real leaves stuck to your mural.
Yeah, yeah, scaffolding, the whole thing. You can't, it's just,
Oh
it was a
gosh.
lot of fun, but learned a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot, but it's awesome. So, we probably all heard that art can be a calming strategy and an outlet, but we're going to get into what that looks like exactly, especially for our kids. So, Cynthia, can you start us off by sharing a bit about your journey, how you got into art, and how it evolved into Dash Blossoms?
Yeah, sure. So I actually do not have an art background. I didn't even take an art class in high school. So this was definitely, people say like, you've probably been an artist all your whole life. Not true. I went to school and I did do makeup. I went to cosmetology school. So that kind of, has an artistic element to it.
Yeah, for sure.
But really what it was I had got pregnant with my twins and they ended up having to come early at 32 weeks. And they ended up being in the NICU for 6 weeks. And they both had different health issues and ended up being diagnosed with different genetic disorders. And my husband, as we're going to so many therapies, so many doctor appointments for all this, gave me a journal. And it was blank. Nothing was in it. Didn't even have the lines. It was just a blank journal. And what I would do in those waiting rooms is I started to literally just draw the flowers in the waiting rooms. Because that's one thing you find a lot at
Yeah.
doctors' offices is just in all the waiting rooms, they have some type of floral element. Um, and through that, I just kept kind of doodling and drawing the flowers, and it really made the time go so quickly. It calmed my nerves. It took my mind off of, what was going on in the actual doctor's room. And then someone saw one of my drawings. It was another mom, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Like, I would put that in a wall, or you should hang that on a wall, or I'd buy it from you." And I was like, "Really?" Oh. So I, put a couple of my drawings on some notepads and some cards that I would fill out and give to the doctors as thank you notes, or, just different places we went. And I ended up doing a little pop-up market and selling a few of my cards. And the interactions I had with other moms when they found out why I started drawing.
Yeah.
I met so many moms who had gone through similar things or were currently going through similar things, and it just bonded us. And the therapeutic element of being able to talk to other people, that this art had created this opportunity, was just really amazing to me about how we, you know, can sometimes feel alone when you're going through hard times like that. But there's actually probably, unfortunately, a lot of other people going through hard times too. Um, so yeah, and it just from there, I kept growing and meeting more people, and had great opportunities and doors opened, and here I am now.
That's amazing. And I love that too, like that you're kind of self-taught and the it just shows us that you don't have to be like this amazing artist to consider yourself an artist or to even start trying to draw at whatever age you are, you know? And I, that's one of the things I love about art too is that there's so many different styles. There's no right way or wrong way to do that. And I think a lot of moms and a lot of people and parents and adults and kids, can use it as a stress reliever if they just give it a chance to see what comes up, see what they like to draw, what they're drawn to. Literally, no pun intended,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
so we all know the phrases of left brain versus right brain thinkers, which is now debated to be more of a myth, by the way. And there's more overlap in gray area than just black and white. But we generally think of left brain as logical thinking and an analytical, and the right brain is creative and emotional. But Dr. Dan Siegel, a leading clinical professor of psychiatry at the UCLA School of Medicine, that's a whole mouthful, but he capitalizes on his neuro research and states the right brain is the body, meaning how we experience the world is a pivotal role in connecting us to our senses and emotions, and in turn, the overall sense of being. I think a lot of people can say, oh, it's just fun and emotions and it's creativity. It's some things like an afterthought. But I love that he's like, no, this is the basis of who we are. So I believe so many people, adults and children, can benefit from not just using art as an official strategy, quote unquote, but just as a way to unwind, de-stress, be more present and mindful of their surroundings. So, pushing all those other distractions aside in a type of creative, meditative state, if you will. So, of course, there are limitless forms of art in various media, but do you have any tips or techniques for parents and their kids that want to get into line drawing or sketching in particular? Maybe some of the beginner friendly media to try, like, like you were saying, like how you just got your start. What kind of tips would you have for them?
Do it all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard to say. I mean, definitely take into account, age and messes and whatever the environment that you're in. But yeah, don't make a big deal and think you have to set up a whole art studio and have everything perfectly laid out and be structured. Just it can be a pencil in a waiting room on a,
Yeah.
piece of a doctor's form that you've just filled out, or some type of, the back of something. Just giving that creative freedom to start wherever. And like you said, there are so many different mediums that you can use. So trying them all, like you never know, like My son, he will barely even hold a pen or anything, but you give him that dot marker and he's just going to cover every surface there is. So yeah, I guess I would just say just keep trying it all and don't
Yeah.
overthink it.
Yeah, I do. I love that message. One of the funnest things that, my students loved when we were in art class is I would let them paint with shaving cream. So it's like you put the shaving cream on their desk and then they end up cleaning the desk for you. But and then you put like a couple of, dollops of whatever wash friendly paint you have. And they just sit there and they just think that's the coolest thing. So especially like, from a tactile perspective, from, you know, the stimulations and the fidgets and stuff, like just to be able to get in there and use their hands, whether they're painting or drawing or using the modeling clay. I think that's such a great outlet for kids. And like you said, try everything. They might not love one thing, but if you try something else, um, you never know what you can
And
peak.
another thing would be to like encourage kids to cover the whole paper. Like we have this thing of like, oh, look at that painting on the wall, and it's of one image, and it's this whole thought out landscape. But you can do a bunch of different things all on one piece of paper. Like every paper doesn't have to be your masterpiece. Like
Yeah.
just keep filling in the blank spaces. You never know what you'll come up with.
Yeah. And, our kids like to waste a lot of paper too. Because they think, okay, I draw one little tiny thing in the
Yeah.
middle. Now I need a whole new piece of paper. I'm like, you have all the way around and the back to use. So fill it up.
Absolutely.
um, One of the more unexpected things I learned when I was in the classroom teaching art was that I would have to teach the kids how to make mistakes, that it's okay to start slow, sketch lightly, and to let the process evolve. Kids are so ingrained, especially in a school setting, to a right or wrong answer, that letting go and really leaning into the creative process was really a challenge for a lot of them. So you also teach drawing workshops. Have you noticed that in adults too? Because I would probably bet yes. I think
Oh
art,
my God.
it's really a great activity or challenge for a perfectionist, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have taught children's classes, workshops, and then adults, and the adults are way harder because it's the getting the first move, getting that first pen to paper, and a lot of times, and I give people the resources. I give you pencils, I give you pens, and I always suggest just go with the pen because you're gonna make mistakes, and if you keep erasing, like to try to fix it, like you're never going to actually get that hand sensory input of drawing a full circle. You'll like draw half of it. Oh no, it's getting wonky. Let me
Yeah.
start over. Oh no, that one's getting back. Let me start over. And it's like, no, just do the whole movement and then do it again on the other corner of the paper. Do it again on the bottom of the paper. So it's just that repetition of just like be okay with mistakes. And that's what I think is so incredibly fun about flowers and nature is if you go out in nature, every leaf, like there's folded ones, there's crinkled ones, there's ones missing petals. So even if you're mimicking, like you'll be drawing a deformed flower, even if you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it from nature. So why is your mistake? Just make it part of the artwork. But yeah, definitely the perfectionist. It's kind of funny. I
Yeah.
actually it's great to see people working through that like oh no, like I don't know if I can do, oh wait, this is kind of fun, and then all of a sudden they go quiet and they're just totally into it.
I love that. It's almost like, our brains try to work backwards. Like we try to imagine what it's going to look like when it's finished. And then we try to work backwards on how to like, make that step by step when really it's just starting with the blank page and starting to draw and kind of see what it evolves into. And like I'm a control freak too. So I like to have an idea what's in mind. So it is challenging for me to be like, you know what? I don't have to have it perfectly mapped out or perfectly planned out and just go with the flow. And I think it's a really fun challenge for adults and to get our kids in that habit earlier. Don't wait until you're an adult to try to figure that out. I think can be beneficial to them too.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's dive into a couple of book picks we have about the beauty of art. I'm going to let you share your idea in a minute. I have a couple of books to kind of get us started on thinking about art, but then you'll have like the master level book when you're ready, right? One of my longtime favorites since teaching was Beautiful Oops by Barney Saltzberg. Even with the littlest of littles, I love how this book gives them such visible examples of turning your oops into something beautiful. Like I said earlier, it's okay to mess up, and the fun of art is in the process, not necessarily the end result, which might just surprise you, right? I also love Diane Abler. She's an amazing author and illustrator with so many books about emotions and SEL. But her book, I'm Not Just a Scribble, is really about accepting differences, the beauty of inclusion, and creating unique art. She also has a fun middle grade series called Charlie Picasso about a non-inspiring artist who realizes his drawings can come to life and the creative journey that takes him on. And lastly, I've been a longtime fan of art teacher extraordinaire Cassie Stevens. She's a hoot, so if you follow her online, please do. And unfortunately, her art elements books weren't out when I was teaching, but I do love her art adventure book. It's called Find Your Way. So maybe for those that think they might be creatively more challenged, it's a good way to start with prompts and baby steps. And it's packed with 268 pages, over 80 illustrations, 7 artist biographies, 7 art activities, and 32 different story endings. So you're choosing the endings as you go on that adventure. Um, but I guess the most simplistic way to start, Cynthia, what would be your favorite book on art?
Yes, there's so many great books out there, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to say, like, just a blank journal.
Yeah.
It's really something that you can take with you, specifically for adults, like just to have one with you. I mean, it might not be reasonable to say like anywhere you go, but just whenever you're gonna have your quiet time, or like if it's in your breakfast room where you have your coffee, just to sit there and doodle in silence, or at the evening winding down, or keep it in your purse so that your kids can use it too. Just any opportunity you have to take that little break is just so good. And
Yeah.
looking back is always one of the best parts of being an artist, because you don't realize you're getting better, but you are. And so having something like a journal or something where it's just these little doodles of just like having fun, and then months, years later, you can look back at them to be like, oh wow, like
Yeah.
my circles are perfect now and before they were really wonky. It's just fun. It's
Yeah.
fun.
No, I love that recommendation because, we talk on this podcast about authors and illustrators all the time, but really it's giving you your chance to create your own story and just start writing, just start drawing. And, like you said, you get to look back and see the fun memories and the things that you've done and the places you've been and what inspirations come from that. So I love that. Kind of along those lines, too, I'll talk about our resource for this episode real quick. It's a drawing scavenger hunt. So, what it'll have is different drawing prompts for your kids or students to follow while they're outside. So, some might be talking as simple about finding something that has a lot of detail and like really sitting and observing that. It's going to talk about finding the values and contrasts and the lightness and darkness and shadows. It's going to talk about finding horizon lines and what that means and perspective and how different sizes are up close and further away. So that'll be a really fun resource that's going to be linked as well on bloomingrosekids.com/podcast, along with all of the other books that we mentioned. So, okay, before we go, there's one more very special book, or two actually, I'd like for you to tell us about. Can you tell us about your books and the inspiration behind them?
Yes. I just came out with a new book. It's called Hello, My Name Is. It's a fill in the blank book sharing your different abilities. And kind of like I talked with earlier, I have two very special twin children. They're now
Mm-hmm.
9 years old. It's hard to
Oh,
even imagine. But my daughter has mosaic Down syndrome, and my son has autism. And I found that, especially with my son, who is very limited on his speech and uses a device, that when we encountered new friends, that they were kids willing to play with him, but they didn't know quite how to include him. And I just wanted to find something that could help them, empower them to really include him in different activities, especially at school, in a classroom setting. Like, he's the kid who comes in with an aid and they're all like, yeah, cool, this is great, but how do we do this?
mm-hmm.
And so I made a little paperback book, and it worked amazing. All of a sudden, they learned so much about him really quickly. So I made this fill in the blank book that gives you the opportunity to personalize it to yourself or a loved one by completing the blanks. It's a great way to just let you know about yourself or a loved one and have them immediately be able to include them.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the ultimate icebreaker, because
Right.
we've had an episode about, celebrating inclusion before, and it's not, especially kids, they have such an innocent nature that they just don't know how to interact in, different social settings, many social settings, so it's really, I love that it's a way that we can say, hey, we are going to include him or her, and this is how we can do it in different ways, that's
Absolutely.
suitable for, that child. So
Yeah, and there's a place in there too where it lets you like answer questions that kids would have instead of being like, well, what's that for? What's this? It just tells you right away, like, hey, this is this equipment, or this child uses this, and but this is everything that's also the same, even though you see things that are different. So yeah,
yeah,
I'm really excited and I hope it can help bring a lot more kids together. So,
yeah,
and then the other exciting book I have coming up is actually called Dash Blossoms Floral Line Shading and Tracing. And with twin 9-year-olds, I'm not able to do as many workshops as I used to. And so I tried to come up with a book that would kind of give people the opportunity to do what we would do in a workshop at home.
yeah, I love that.
And so that is going to be available for our local people here in the Fulshear and Katy area at the Humble Grounds Coffee House.
Yes, as well as a lot of your stuff from Dash Blossoms is available
Yes.
at Humble Grounds as well. So from the notepads to the beautiful cups, you have the etchings and
Yes.
all kinds of cool stuff. I love
Thank you.
that. I think I took your class probably like a couple years ago now, but I still saved all the material that I got from that class.
Yes.
It's in a nice little folder, and when I brought it home, I was excited about it, and my daughter, I think, started drawing with it that weekend too. And so it's great to have like those little starting points to, see where it goes, see what it turns into,
Yeah. Yeah,
and you
that's
can
awesome.
save it. Yes. Cynthia, where can listeners find you on social to follow along and be inspired by all of your beautiful creations?
Yes, my handle on any social media outlet is just Dash Blossoms with an S. And then, like we just talked about before, in person, if you're local, Humble Grounds Coffee Shop, that's where you can find my stuff.
Yes, I love that. I love Humble Grounds. Okay, so what a fun episode, Cynthia. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap, guys. I hope you gained a couple of colorful nuggets on seeing and using the beautiful world around you and your children for creative inspiration. And we'll see you guys next time on the Blooming Books podcast.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Blooming Books podcast, recorded and produced by Blooming Rose Kids. We've opted to keep our series ad-free, and if you'd like to support our efforts, please consider shopping our own custom-signed Blooming Rose books at bloomingrosekids.com and our academic materials on our Teachers Pay Teachers page. All of the books mentioned in this episode are also available via our affiliate links in the show notes. We so appreciate you being here and hope to see you next time.